Welcome to Moto Heads Garage. I'm TJ, and today we're going to start this rebuild. So, getting everything back together. As you saw, we tore it down to this point right here, and the wiring mess is that. It is a mess, but we have a fix for that. Some of the parts have come in, so let's see how many we can get on today. Plus, I'm going to be welding on the mount here. As you can see, somebody came through here and cut and ground this whole thing off, and I they didn't want, I'm guessing they did not want to ever put a fairing back on there. So they removed that part. We're going to build a custom little mount here. The reason why is because the plan is to build a custom front fairing for an adventure rider, and it's something that nobody's ever done on a KLR. So it'll be the one and only of its kind. Hopefully it turns out looking good, or yeah, we'll see. The parts aren't here yet, but I've got them on the way. So let's get this subframe, the back of the bike on. I've got to build a support for that rear fender, which we are going to keep, get the new carb on, and just start moving forward. To begin with, we're going to get this carburetor on. I did order a new carb, a complete new carb. The carb that was on it is around here somewhere and probably should be in the trash. I don't know if you saw. Here it is. Yeah, as far as I can tell, this is a carburetor off of like a 400EX. It looks very much like I've built a bunch of them. It looks like a 400EX carburetor that has been mangled. And so, yeah, that thing's junk. But we did get the same style factory CV carb. This is not going to be a performance vehicle. I'm not trying to make it fast or whatever. Do not need a direct slide. The CV slide will be just fine. So we did get a whole new factory carb. And we'll get this thing put on. Get a little lube around the mouth of the carburetor. And as we get this mounted, after we get this mounted, we'll start getting that subframe together that has to go on here. Carburetors are always so much fun to put on. All right, wiring harness is in its spot. The thing looks right over here. Right as rain. So we'll get that. Let's get this subframe. We'll put the air box in the subframe. I'm going to leave as much off as I can for right now, just so as we go back together, I can kind of put it together while it's on the bike. All right, there's a greater than zero chance that this all is going to have to come back off. It's just the nature of the beast when you're building bikes. So make sure when you do this, you do tighten the bolts down like they're going to stay. Obviously, don't over tighten them, but tighten them down like how they're going to stay, because then that way you don't forget something. Because even though I'm sure a lot of this will have to come back apart, I'm still going to torque everything down, because it would be horrible to, I know it's going to come back off later, and then it doesn't come back off, and it doesn't get torqued. So we're going to get this together, and then we'll get all the bolts tightened down, get it exactly how it goes, and then we'll fish this wiring harness through here. We had to fish it out, so we'll fish it right back in. We'll get these bolts lined up. Let's make sure that that carburetor is where it goes. Oh, see, the carburetor boot. That's the one you got to watch. Whoever tried to swap the carbs out did not watch that. Did not have the carburetor on properly. So take extra care. See, I've got an issue over here where it is not on there at all. Had a wire get in between there. It's just those little things. And they'll get you. They'll jump up and get you no matter how long you've been a mechanic. Putting a carb boot on takes some skill and also some nice tools. These little, you can buy these from Harbor Freight. This is Mecco, but you can buy some of these Harbor Freight. These picks, these 90-degree picks, you'll put it in where it is over the carb, and then you'll follow it around and pull the lip up over the carburetor, and then it pops right on. I wish I could have showed you that. Here, I could take it back off, bring you in here, and let you see this. Your carb boot's like that. You come in here, you get to where it is like that, and then look, just follow it around, and work it around, and then it pops right over and goes right in its home. And then make sure you do it both sides. That's what usually gets people, is one side of the carb will be on and the other side won't be. So this one, oh, and I pushed it off. So let's wrestle this carburetor in here and Then we'll move on to getting the rest of the subframe together and on. Okay, subframe is bolted on. Airbox is in. Around the carburetor correctly. We have some lines, some venting that we're going to have to figure out routing, because remember, this did not have the factory carb, so we have to figure that out, but we'll figure that out for sure. Up next, the internal structure has this splash guard. So that'll be what's next. Seems to be the next piece. Oddly enough, this is obviously the factory mounting point for the regulator rectifier, but oddly enough, it actually has nuts coming through that the tire could hit. I'm very interested. I can't even talk. I'm very intrigued that Cowie did that. It looks like that's what Cowie did. So let's get this all bolted up and put on, and we'll go from there. I'll bring you in, and we'll get this back fender all mounted. One thing I am a big fan of is the previous owner built this little shroud to protect. I'm just throwing these on the ground. I thought it was in the trash. It's being so nasty. Well, not nasty, but lazy, I guess. He built this little shroud to protect mud from flying up around the airbox and all that stuff. And I mean, it's little things like this that are the difference between a crappy build and a nice build. And I'm telling you, they did a nice build. Gotta take that screw out. Once again, like I said, I'm gonna take that apart real quick to be able to put this back in there. And that's what you're gonna run into doing these projects where things aren't factory or aren't original, or you're dealing with a 20-year-old motorcycle. Let me get a screwdriver and let's get that out. Obviously, I couldn't leave it as dirty as it was. Sarah in Tune would just show up and just like drown me in Robo Bubble. So if you don't watch that channel, you should. Amazing car builder with some amazing skills. So that's Sarah in Tune, and definitely worth a watch. What want to do with my bolts? Bolts. I'm going to put these in here, even though they've got to come back out. For sure they've got to come back out, because I've got to put the fender part back on. That'll just hold it in place as I get this all lined back up. Remember, while you're working on putting things together with zip ties, at some point in time, you're probably going to have to mess with them again. And when you do, you don't want, back here, you don't want these to cut you. So you want to take your wire dikes. They have some flush cuts that are the like that are, you can cut with this way. But whatever you do, you want to cut them as close to the deal as possible and as flat as possible. If you cut them with that right there sticking up, that will get you. You will cut yourself on that. So definitely be careful there. Another trick, zip tie trick, they can't fall out. You cut it from the side, and then you just can pull them out. They stay in the bag, and they don't wind up all over your shop floor. Ask me how long it took me to learn that. So we're going to get these zip ties in here. And on to the next part. Up next, this Acerbis right there. Acerbis rear end or rear light kit that they mounted to this works real good. But as I was saying, it kind of flops, and we don't want it floppy. So what I may do, see if I got like a piece of metal, a piece of aluminum or something like that, where I can come from these two holes back here and run up to where these mount somewhere underneath here, just to give this, as you can see, it kind of flexes right there, and when it does it when it's bolted on too. See that flex? We want to get rid of that. So let me go on my metal pile, see what I can find, and see what we can do about, I mean, heck, I think we could just run it right through here. Maybe screw it to this, and see how much structure that gives us, because great idea, but terrible execution. So when talking about the seat, that's what mounts the seat right there. So this is what we're going to be working on next. We're going to build some quick brackets, and the time to do it is while the seat cover is off. Yeah. So let's get these ground down flat, and let's get some brackets made. And there we go. You can see it lines up really good. And what I did was take some stainless steel right there, Got some brackets. They're thin. It's what I had to do to be able to make them fit. And then on the inside, also got supports. So the plastic doesn't pull through. And this side lines up good. Let's go to this side here. And it lines up good too. Now, let's get a cover on this thing. And it's time to put the seat cover on. My killing of the mold definitely worked. So that's a good thing. So we got that all sprayed off, got that clean. Now, I'm a moto guy. So of course I go for a gripper seat. Hindsight, I don't know which one's better, a gripper seat or a smooth seat. Because this is going to be a street bike too. I guess I'm going to find out. If you have run a gripper seat on your adventure bike, it didn't turn out good, let me know down in the comments. So the trick to putting these on, and this is just a eBay special seat. Remember, this is a budget build. Obviously, you're going to be doing this as nice as you possibly can. You're going to get a gut seat. But once again, budget build. So put the front on. Just have that in the spot where it goes. And then you pull the top. And this is, it's all about the beginning. It's all about the setup and making sure you have a pneumatic stapler. This is a Central Pneumatic Harbor Freight special with 1/4 inch staples. You want to make sure you use the 1/4 inch staples. The problems I've seen people make trying to use the long staples, because they will eat through the foam if they stick out too far past the plastic, and not starting in the right spot. It's all about where you start. So what I normally do, and we're going to trust that this seat is somewhat normal, you want to make sure that the logo that's on the back is lined up perfectly. And then you're going to pop a few staples. You want to make sure you press down hard too when you're putting those in, because you want them to bury completely flush. Now, we've got that done. Remember, the front is still just hooked on there. We're going to take these wings, we're going to pull them down, up under. See where it's at there. And you're just going to keep pulling those wings down, trying to remove those wrinkles that are there. Should be able to get some of those out. You just got to work it. You got to remember, this has got to stretch some. Putting this on in the middle of winter, not the best thing. Sometimes what you got to do, though. All right. And as you can see, I've only put a few staples in. And the reason why I do that is because I want to be able to make sure that I can pull them out if I need be, to be able to get all the wrinkles. And plus, this gripper material is pretty good about shrinking once it gets hot. So a few little built-in wrinkles that came from whenever it was shipped, those will go away. A seat like this, it has it's kind of like an ATV looking seat that has this big uphill to it. They are definitely harder to do. So I'm going to sit here and work this on. I'm not going to make you watch through the whole thing, but we'll get this on. And you see it right here. This is a wrinkle from the shipping. That's the difference between buying a cheap seat cover, and one of the differences. Try to buy a cheap seat cover and a good one. But we'll get all these wrinkles worked out. Pull everything tight. Once we get it on, we'll get it on the bike. Now, some of these wrinkles, like that, is from the shipping. It's going to be really hard to get out. Oh, let's get this as tight as we can. See how it turns out. I may have to pull a couple staples out, kind of move it around. We're going to take our time. We're going to get it on there tight. It's on there, wrinkle free. I've got this one area right here, which was from the actual shipping of this. And then the other wrinkles are actually just divots in the foam. The foam was old, obviously you saw, but this is a budget build, so the seat is on. The mounts worked perfectly, holding it tightly, and they're stainless steel, so they won't rust. One of my favorite tools in the shop is the Arc Droid. See, it's dusty. It gets used quite a bit. Got this little table here. I'll bring you in. What we're going to do is we're going to build the brackets that we're going to mount the front structure to. I need to build those before I put the front of the bike together. You'll see why shortly, because the forks will be in the way for welding. The KLR had some type of structure there to be able to hold that front fairing that the previous owner, when they made it a Street Fighter, cut it off. So I'm going to design these up. I'll bring you in and video the screen and how this is done. I'm not the best at this. You could do it on the computer or you can do it on the screen. I am, like I said, mediocre at best with this stuff. So I'll show you just how somebody with no CAD experience or anything can use the ArcDroid to build custom brackets. Take me a few minutes, cut it out, and we'll move on. First thing that we're wanting to do, make sure your stylus is on here. And here's the computer program. I'll bring you in and show you the process of designing. So let's see if I can get this. This is going to be a little blurry back here, but we're going to be working on this. So hopefully you can see. So I can get rid of some of the glare. There we go. I've got it on a stand for a tablet. It is kind of terrible, but it seems to be working. So what you want to do is you want to find your start point. This is plugged in, and we're going to call this our start point right here. Then you want to bring down this little knob while you're doing this, brings this, you can see this brings down so it touches, and then I just want to go just up. That just helps you line things up. So we want a square. You can either push this button here, or you can push this in. And we're going to push this in so we don't move that. We're at 11. We can adjust that in there. So we want to be, got that started. So we want to be width. So how wide do we want it? So this will be how far away from the stem it is. And then how long, that was how wide. So we need to make it this wider. So this one's going to be 120. So we have 120. And I measured this from that point to make sure I have plenty of metal there. So just junk bracket here. Something else I forgot that you want to do is you normally want to go ahead and have this clamped on in case it's going to cause anything to lift up, which it does. So I'm going to move this out. I like to move these out of the way if we're not cutting on them. All right. I'll get this back to where it is. That way I can clamp this down. There we go. And our build now. So we have it 120 long, and it's right where we want it to start. And then we need it 70 wide. Now what you could do to zoom in to look at your piece better and move it where you want it. Got it drawn up there. So then you'll check this. And this is where you want to adjust your cut. Now, on this cut, this little deal here that looks like an R. Let me see if I can spin this around better. This little R cut with the arrow on the inside means it's going to cut the inside of the square out. We don't want to do that. We want to cut to the outside of the square. Has a 2mm lead in. And let's see if we can make this something. We're going to adjust the X and Y axis. So this will be 10. And then this will be 180. Wait, hold on. Actually, go back. It needs to be negative 180. So now we have it where we want it. All right, so we have our square that we're cutting out. Like I said, you can round these edges inside that square tool deal. Not going to round the edges at all, put a radius on it, because I'm going to weld this up there and I want that straight. So I'll make those radius on the bench grinder. That flips it mirror. This little deal right here, we have multiple cuts. We want to reorder them. What this does, this little button right there, is when you hit it, that little button is going to reorder it to cut the inside holes first. Click that. Cuts will be ordered inside out. And then we're going to do an auto run with the stylist. It'll go down. All right, everything seems to be running fine. So let's get the plasma wand hooked up. So what you got to do, remove this, slide the pin off, make sure you unplug it. Up next is the plasma wand. Now that we have the plasma wand hooked up, it knows the plasma wand is hooked up. I do a dry run. Here you'll see a symbol basically showing an X through the power. So you'll come in here, click that. Make sure it doesn't interfere with anything. The lines don't get caught on anything. All right, that looked good. So now you come in here, power up the wand, make sure your air is hooked up, and click run. And you see, it's that easy right there. Look at that bracket. Perfect bracket. Probably could go 9 mil on those if I wanted to change those, but it's going to be fine for what we're doing. Cut another one. Once again, proving just how terrible of a YouTuber I am. I didn't or lost the footage. I know I hit record. I know I watched it, but yeah, maybe I don't know. Footage not there, but we did weld this up. We did cut this out and welded it, and then I painted it. And as you can see, no overspray. Yeah, no extra overspray. I mean, you just tape stuff off and cover it up, and that's how you do it. But we got this welded on here. This is going to be our support structure for our fairing kit that we're going to build. So up next, we're going to grease up the bearings, throw the fork triple clamps in there, get the forks in there, and I got to change the front tire. I did change the rear tire last night. I just wanted to get it done. There's been a million videos of how to do it. And wow, I forget just how hard street legal tires are to mount. Been mounting dirt bike tires for so long. I almost gave up. I really did. But yeah, so we'll get the forks on here and get that front tire mounted. See if we can't get it down off of this stand by myself. I don't think I'm going to be able to. And we'll go from there. So I've been doing a lot of work off camera. Most of it had to do with wiring. I'll let you check out these controls. I switched to a more modern control. I think it's going to make a big difference on just the livability of the bike, how nice they are. And as you can see, those controls, they're aluminum. They were pretty inexpensive. They're a universal control. So that being said, they have, you just have to pull them apart and do wiring. Let me show you. Here's a quick tip. Print the biggest you can print it off, stick it to a piece of cardboard so you have it around, and then you can trace all of this. I had to completely learn how this whole system works, fix a bunch of issues, and we have more. I have a power module coming, and we're going to put our power distribution block coming. We're going to wire that in, and I'll bring you along on that one. It's pretty cut and dry, but that was 2 days. These videos that don't normally take me a little over a week to make, but that right there took me 2 days to figure out exactly how to do that. Not an easy thing, but I think it will definitely be worth it. We also, to be able to run the bike, make sure everything ran, I wanted to put the exhaust on. I know I talked about wrapping the exhaust. I decided I didn't want to do that. I painted it with exhaust heat paint. It's going to come off. We know it is. And it'll get some brown rust to it. It's not going to be the end of the world. And I built my own heat shield for it. New carb, fired up, runs. I will have to jet it, this bike. As you'll see here in a second, I'm going to pull the, I started working on the exhaust, but this bike's got an exhaust and airbox holes cut in it. So I'm going to have to go up on that jet. But so far, the little bike, it had some fuel in it. Let's see if it still has enough fuel to... That's loud. No muffler on it right now. But speaking of that, let's start cleaning that muffler up and let's see if we can get it looking fresh and new. This bike did come with a actually really good slip-on exhaust, but the stickers, little worse for wear. The other side is much worse, and so we're gonna peel these off. I've got new stickers coming from FMF to make this thing look brand new. But let's get these off. Let's put some heat on it. You could use a heat gun if you like. If I'm not trying to save the stickers, I'm a big fan of using the torch just because it builds the heat so quickly and makes this job so much nicer, and normally doesn't leave a lot of adhesive behind. One of the best things for this next is spraying it down with glass cleaner. Get your Scotch-Brite. The glass cleaner is somewhat of a soap, and it lubricates the Scotch-Brite. And then you just want to work it, and my recommendation would be to work it all in the same direction. So we'll do this side, and then I'll show you the difference between side A and side B. And after a few minutes, that's what you start with there. As you can see, the old sticker outline, and then you end up with that very nice brushed look. And you achieve that by going all in one direction. So, obviously, not perfect, but gosh, it's so much better. So, let's get this muffler on. Stickers are on their way. I think they're supposed to be here today. If not, it'll be in tomorrow or the next day. So, the slip-on just does exactly what it's called. Slips on. And we'll get these bolts started in their holes. Oh, see, that one's not ready. There we go. Muffler's on. So I've gotten rid of the factory fuse box. This is it right here. They had a mess of wires. I added this right here, jumper, because somewhere along the lines in this wire, it was busted. One of the many things. But I mean, it's on its last leg. So I've updated it. This had two fuses. One was for the main power in, one for key power. And what I've done is upgraded to this box. And this box, I can push it down. Let's see here. Fish it out of there. Push it down there. And then it's got a heck of a lid on it. And there we go. And I've got fuses here where I've got the main fuses. I made a little inside there. And then I have two relays with fuse for their power going to them. What's going to be nice about that is when I decide to, when I decide to add lights or any accessories, I have two more fuse spots right here, and I've got big fuses to run these right here for lights and whatnot. So, and it just latches on there, covers it up, keep it nice and pretty, because I like that. The wires go sit down right there, and it does clear the seat. I did check. That is all the time we're going to have this week. I've got to get this video edited and posted for all you subscribers that want to see it. But I appreciate people who do follow and who do comment. It's kind of uplifting and definitely keeps me motivated. So if you give me a thumbs up or a comment down below what you think so far. The bike is together, basically close to done. Up next, we have the tower. That video is the one that I think is going to be my favorite, because we get to build a rally tower for the front of this with a windshield, a headlights, everything. I think y'all are really going to enjoy it. And yeah, the exhaust, look how good it looks. Little things make such a big difference on how a bike turns out and looks. And the exhaust with the new stickers from FMF really make it look new and polishing everything up. I'm super excited. I really appreciate everybody who does watch and comment. Like I said, the comments mean so much to me. I love reading them. I try to always reply or at least give you a heart or whatever, because it does mean a lot to me. So stay tuned and get ready, because the tower is the video everybody's waiting for. And we get to use the ARC Droid again. We get to build a custom mount for a custom tower, and I am super excited. Thank you for joining.